Jordan, what's up?
Francis. Hey, it's been a while.
Hey, we're back.
We are back.
See you, my man.
It's good to see you as well.
Let me ask you a question. How is your life in lacrosse right now? How is it? What's going on?
I got to tell you, my life in lacrosse right now is pretty great, and here's why. I've been able to watch a ton of lacrosse, which is it's like that time of the year where March Madness is kicking off, and so I can watch basketball and lacrosse at the same time. The volume of lacrosse games that are on TV right now, chef's kiss, just beautiful. Shout out to my sister, she taught me that, and I've just really been enjoying it. I also just signed on to get back into coaching at the school that I work at. So I'm excited about that, working with one of my very, very close friends at our alma mater. So excited about that, to be able to coach and touch the game a little bit more coming this spring. So it's been great. How about you?
Nice.
What's going on with you?
I'm gonna second your chef's kiss. I was really excited, and I think lacrosse came on TV earlier this year. I think we got a week or two early, and it's just been amazing to think about last spring and how we got cut off. It was really nice to see it come back on. Nice to hear Kark's voice. Nice to hear Quint's voice. Nice to hear Anish. Miles Jones is on the call.
Yes,
which I know
great
he
job,
started
Miles
a little bit last
Jones.
year, but he seems to be more regular. So it's great to have those voices, those personalities, seeing kids out there play. I've watched the Nats game, just been able to really sit, on Saturdays. I'm also getting the opportunity to coach again. We just figured out that we're going to have a middle school season.
Yes.
So after spring break coming up here in a few weeks, we'll get started. So my middle school guys, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are super fired up about that. Here's what I did the other night that you'll think is funny, because you and I graduated college in 2007. We played a little bit of Lake Placid ball for a few years after that, but we're pretty much out of the game when it comes to playing lacrosse, right?
Oh, very much, yeah.
I've got lacrosse fever right now. Stoked on it. I'm flipping through Instagram. I follow Powell Lacrosse. They do these great spotlights on players from a while back, and
right.
I always cruise their feed, and I see one of their Powell lacrosse sticks. They've got this line of shafts, and they're all like bright shiny colors. I lock eyes with the gold one, and somehow convince myself that I need a new shaft. Right, I play lacrosse probably 1 to 2 to 3 months a year, and when I say play, I mean throwing the ball back and forth with the last kid at practice that doesn't have a partner, because there's always an odd number, right? So I go and I look at this Powell shaft, and I'm like, well, if I get a new shaft, I got to get a new head. And so I start looking at heads, and I'm doing all this research, and I realize how far out of the game I really am, because I don't know the names of any heads. I don't know the names of the mesh that's out. I don't know what sort of head I should use, what sort of shaft gets, like, what's the weight on it, what's the strength of it. I don't know anything. All these things that I used to be able to rattle off: scandium, titanium, whatever it was, edge, revolution, evolution. We used to know it all.
Yeah.
I'm completely equipment illiterate at this point. And at that point, at 10:30 at night, I closed my computer.
Well,
purchasing anything.
I thought where you were going with that was you were going to impulse buy a stick.
Well, I was, until I couldn't figure anything out.
I'm happy. I'm happy that you didn't. Honestly, I'm happy that you didn't. Speaking of scrolling through social media and looking for lacrosse, or I guess just finding it at this point, you don't have to look. What an episode we have coming up. This is, listen, we've had some amazing guests. It certainly didn't get less amazing with our buddy Mikey Diggs. What a personality, and just a great conversation that we had with him.
The best part about Mikey is that he feels like a guy that you can just sit around and watch lacrosse with, which is exactly what our friendship is based off of, is hanging out, watching lacrosse. I think he said eating Doritos, and talking about how he put together this creative persona of Diggstape on Instagram and online. And so excited to have him here. He's a guy I connected with here in San Diego when we were playing on the same men's league team. So I've known him for a couple of years. Was super gracious when we called him up and asked him to be on the show. So we're really happy to not only talk about Diggstape, but for Mikey to be on the show and tell his story so you can understand how it even came to life.
Mikey's life in lacrosse is really just amazing. It's great to hear from somebody like him and how he wound up kind of in the forefront of lacrosse media. I don't even want to say social media. I want to say lacrosse media, because he's become one of the faces and voices of lacrosse media and social media for sure. So we're really excited to bring to you our first episode of season 2 with Mikey Diggs, Diggstape.
Enjoy.
Welcome everybody. Welcome back, I should say, to a new season. And I was thinking about this, a new season. What defines a season? Well, we took a break, so now it's season 2. So welcome to season 2 of the Time and Space podcast. I'm Jordan Hirsch. That's Francis Donald, and we are really happy to be joined by Mikey Diggs for our first episode of this new season. Thank you so much, Mikey, for taking the time to spend with us and share your life in lacrosse.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be talking to you guys.
So we're going to start out with a fit check, as we typically do. I'm going to throw it over to Francis.
Well, a couple things. I wanted to since we have our first West Coast guest on, I wanted to, finally, right?
I've been waiting.
I wanted to give a shout out to something on the West Coast. This is a shirt. It says "Support Human Rights and Lefts." That's a surfing pun for those of you on the East Coast who have no idea what a right or a left is. This is a shirt that was a collaboration between Kind Humans Movement and the Changing Tides Foundation. So Kind Human Movement, Humans Movement is an organization, a nonprofit here out of San Diego that really promotes sustainable use of sustainable goods. And they collab with Changing Tides Foundation, which promotes the entry point for women into action sports. So both here, grounded in San Diego. They did a collab. They came out with this T-shirt, and all the proceeds went to Changing Tides Foundation. So just an opportunity to support some local people doing some really cool stuff.
That's dope.
Also wanted to stay. I'm going to take my headphones off for a second. Wanted to stay true and shout out my new Legends hat. Mikey, we have made Legends headwear the unofficial sponsor of our show, meaning that they don't give us money, but we give them money when we buy their hats. So they don't know anything about us, but we like to wear their hats and talk about them. So this is the latest one, little Boy Scout action is what I'm feeling with this one.
That's dope. Love it.
Yeah. Mikey, why don't you go ahead? Tell us what you got on today.
So I grabbed one of the PLLs. They went out of stock because I didn't buy it quick enough, but the Believe, Inspire, Empower hoodies.
Nice.
I can't remember off the top of my head exactly where the proceeds of this, like what exact organization these proceeds went to, but I know that they went to basically the cause of growing the game of lacrosse and essentially putting money in the right places to empower players of color to feel welcome in lacrosse. And I just thought it was an obvious cop, being a black lacrosse player myself and having the experience I've had. It's like, absolutely, I want one of those. So they ran out of stock the first time, and I was like, dang, okay, well, y'all got to drop another batch so I can grab it. So I did. So that's what I'm wearing today. It's just a cause that's very important to me. I want everybody to feel welcome playing the game. So
Absolutely. Love that. The PLL has been doing a lot of great work to bring to light diversity in the game. And against some opposition that I've seen, at least on social media. It's not necessarily received well by everybody, but they've stayed pretty true to that message, which is really impressive, especially for the sport of lacrosse.
Right. Yeah. A lot of work to do. And I feel like you said, they're standing firm in it, which is exactly what we need.
Love, Jordan, what do you got for us?
I love the messages. I guess I'm gonna come back down to I just picked a shirt out of my closet. So my cousin plays for the University of Miami club team, and this is one of the team store zip up hoodies. I love zip up hoodies. There's just something about getting older and pulling something over your head, I guess. I just like to throw it on and zip it up. And it's just comfortable. It's fashionable. I'm a huge Miami fan. And so I thought I would represent. Thanks, Max, for, sending me the link to the team store. And I also have my Legend hat on, or one of my Legend hats, our official, unofficial sponsor.
Also, that hoodie is Adrenaline, which is a San Diego-based brand. So there you go, bringing it all in.
There we go. I wanted to go full West Coast this episode. I wanted to go full West Coast.
Love it.
Yeah, we always have to make that distinction that these are Legend hats and not Legends, which I might have said. Which is has some grounding in lacrosse as well.
Yeah.
So, Mikey, we're excited to have you. Those of you who are listening might not know the name Mikey. You might just know him as Diggstape, which has been a really refreshing addition to the lacrosse portfolio. And wanted to not just talk about that. We're going to talk a ton about that a little bit, but Mikey Diggs, who is this guy? Where is he from? What else is he into? What do you do on a daily basis? What fuels you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Dope. Appreciate that. It's Diggstape was an accident, and that's what I tell everybody, and nobody believes me. Everybody thought I had this grand master plan to come in and shake things up in the lacrosse world and make a name for myself. That was never the goal. It was just to try something different, and it stuck. But it's who I am off the field. I'm originally from a small town in Maryland, Damascus, Maryland, for anyone that knows Montgomery County or the DC area. I spent my first 16 years there. And then when I was 16, my family up and moved out to San Diego. So I actually finished high school here through my last 2 years of high school. Had some trouble getting recruited because the school I landed at actually didn't have a lacrosse team my junior year. So that's the year everyone gets recruited. So I fell off the map between sophomore and senior year. Actually ran track that year, which was fun, but I hated the idea of running track when I wanted to be playing college lacrosse. So it was bittersweet. But I ended up, finishing at Rancho Bernardo High School. That's where Will Yaby went to school, if anybody knows that name. Yeah. So then I ended up getting a spot on the team, some scholarship offers to St. Vincent College out in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. So I played Division III ball out there for 4 years. Got a lot of burn as a midfielder there. It was great. Saw my role change every year in the midfield, which was a really fun experience, evolving from a role player to secondary scorer to a primary scorer. So that was fun. And then now I'm, as a broke college kid, I was like, I could go back to Maryland and, scrape it out with my family and, hang out with some of my high school friends, because that's what I've been wanting for the last 6 years. Or I can go live with mom and dad for free back in San Diego. So I picked choice B. So now I've been in San Diego ever since. That was like 9 years ago. And I'm a creative writer here. I work for a pretty big tech company doing copy work. So I support all different types of tech, stuff you buy at Best Buy or something like that. I write ad copy for that. So if you see it floating around the internet, I write stuff like that. So that's what I do in my 9 to 5. it's funny that when I say, let's loop back to when I said Diggstape was an accident, because the other thing that fuels me is photography. I was really deep into that for several years, landscape photography primarily. And I was starting to experiment with branded photography, a little bit of portrait stuff, a little bit of street, but mostly landscape. I was pushing real hard on that. I wanted to get noticed in the photography space, kind of the way that I've been appreciated in the lacrosse space. But lacrosse is still my favorite thing in the world, so it's not a bad thing. But it's just funny that I tried hard to get noticed in one space and it didn't work out, and then I just threw something at the wall in the lacrosse space and it stuck. So yeah, basic rundown.
Nice. And I've been following your photography for a while through Instagram, and it's
Right.
really good. I don't know if you identify with that side of yourself. Do you want to give your photography a plug here while we're on the topic?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to follow me on Instagram, I shorthanded Mikey Diggs photography, so it's MDP Graphy, like the last part of photography, so MDP Graphy. Yeah, I haven't really posted there very much. I mostly just shoot film now, because the grind of shooting digital for so long and doing so many projects. And I actually did photography for Powell Lacrosse for 2 years. I was like their
Yes, I remember
primary
that.
brand photographer for 2 years, which was awesome, story in and of itself. But yeah, the grind of that really wore down my desire to do digital. So now I just basically shoot film just for myself, just to hang up around the house and maybe slap on Instagram every once in a while. But yeah, still love picking up a camera. It's great.
It's amazing. You're creative. I mean, that all makes sense.
Yeah.
When you think about Diggstape and what you're putting out into the world, I mean, it is ridiculously creative, and I think that's why people appreciate it.
Thanks, man. That's cool. That's cool to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny when we were kind of prepping for you and talking before this, we just noticed how authentic everything seems for you, and it's kind of interesting to me that you said it was an accident that you kind of landed in this space, and now have gained some recognition in this space, not on purpose, and how authenticity really breeds a following, and that's what we noticed the most about you. And I think what we were kind of wondering is, what in some of the things that you're doing with that platform, what's the process look like? Like, what's the starting point? What's it look like when you're chopping things up? Because to us, what we were talking about was, it just seems like you just watch it and it's one take. That's how it feels. So could you get into that a little bit, your process?
Yeah.
Maybe in
absolutely.
that is the story of like how this happened by accident too, right?
Right.
I'm assuming that's part of it.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's funny, Jordan. I'll answer that question, and I'll start with kind of where Francis is leading me here. So I used to do like the kind of videos you see on Instagram or whatever, posted on Twitter sometimes. I used to do that just like on Snapchat and send it to my friends back. I graduated college in 2012. And me and my friends in college, we would sit around on, Saturdays, after our own game, or, if we didn't have a game that Saturday, we would sit around and watch D1 lacrosse, and we would be like, how are these dudes so much better than us? Like, this is crazy. They're the same age as us, and they're on ESPN. This is ridiculous. So we would just sit there and just like wild out at, like, you watch sports with your friends, and it's like, how did that dude just do that? And it ends up being jokes, ends up being catchphrases that you invent with your friends. You're just having a good time. You don't mean nothing by it. You're just hanging out. And I really missed that when I graduated. I missed my friends, just hanging out in the living room, just like munching on Doritos and talking about lacrosse. So every time something crazy would happen, I would just break out my phone, get on Snapchat, and just send them a 10-second clip. And, my friends are just, they know me. So it's not like my friends weren't like, you should do something with this. That's not how it went at all. They were just like, yeah, that's what we always laugh about. So, you push that 6 or 7 years down the line. And I actually found out, do y'all know who Famous Los is?
Yeah.
No, I do not.
I do.
Okay. So Jordan, you know exactly what I'm about to say
Yes.
then. Cause I look at, so Francis, Famous Los he basically does like what I do, except 20 times better for basketball.
Okay.
He's like, so do you know who Filet is?
Yes.
Okay, so he's like Filet, but a little different. Like he like originally what Los would do is he would put the clip up with like this with broadcast audio, and then he would set his camera up in his bathroom, and he would walk into the bathroom from the side and be like, "Boy, I know you didn't just do that," and just start talking like with that sound in an echoey bathroom. And it was, I would piss myself laughing at those videos back in like 2015, 16, like when the Warriors were on their run. LeBron was trying to catch him. It was a great time for his type of content. And that's what got me thinking, this is how I talk about lacrosse. I wonder how lacrosse would accept that. And I sat on that idea for like 3 years. And I was like, not this season. Not this season. And then eventually my best friend was like, just go for it this year. And then Asher Knowlton went crazy on UVA in 2019. I was like, all right, let me just start making videos. So that's how that
was that
started.
the first one? Was that the first major video?
So my first video was Nakai scoring a goal and like hitting the Millie Rock. Because I was just like, I wanted to be reactionary. Like I was like, by the time I was ready to start it and like had a name in mind, it was like a week after the UVA High Point game. So I was like, I'll come back to that later, but I want to like go with what's happening now. So I started with like a Duke Loyola game, random, just tag Nakai and was like, that was dope. You hit the Millie Rock after, you couldn't tell me nothing if I hit a 15-yard ball for my 5th goal of the day and we're about to win the game. I'm Millie Rocking. You can't stop me. So like, it's like that type of energy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just how everybody thinks. And no matter what sport you play, it's like,
nobody wants to say it.
This Millie Rock. Like, come on. So like, it's that. But, Jordan, to your point, I want it to feel like it's one take, even though sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. And really all it is I'm a lax rat. I cruise YouTube, I scroll Instagram and, whatever people are talking about, if something pops up and I start laughing, my first reaction is to laugh that someone like hit a fake and then did it between the legs from like 5 yards out when really that's too far out to be doing that move. And I start laughing. That's how I know, okay, let me sit down and see what comes to mind. People are like, do you write your lines or nah, I don't write anything. I just, it's experience of being around funny people and, watching all kinds of great stuff on the internet across different sports. And I sit down and point my phone at my TV screen and like a caveman, just whatever comes out of my mouth. Sometimes, okay, here's how whatever I said is like really authentic is if I start laughing before I can get it out is because that's when I thought of that. Like that moment is when I thought of that, so it all falls together and somehow a lot of people think it's funny, which I still think is wild. But.
That makes me think of some of the funniest Chappelle moments are when his jokes are so funny that they're cracking him up and he can't even get them out.
Yeah.
I want to pause right there because you started to get into something and without me knowing that the Nakai clip was the first one that you did. And side note, I've been watching Nakai do that to people since he was in high school back in Texas.
That's right.
It was it was equally as entertaining back then, maybe even more so. Yeah. Jordan and I were talking before we got on, and we were like, authenticity, yes. And then it started to get into another place of Stuart Scott, bringing this idea of like taking lacrosse and making it hip hop, making it, giving it flavor. And I wonder if you first did this because it felt good to you. It felt natural to you. Do you see it taking a shape now that you really want to hold true to that shape? Or do you see it, creating a bigger movement within lacrosse media?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing for me, and this is something I learned with photography, I learned through photography, is the most important thing in anything that I do creatively is to understand and be understood. I don't really care so much for accolades or attention or stats or followers. Like that stuff doesn't really appeal to me. What appeals to me is I just want to feel understood, and I want to understand other people and relate to other people on a level where it's like, you can walk onto any lacrosse field in America and we're all laughing when someone, you know, like hits a ground ball all silly and like ice skates through 3 cats in the middle of the field. Like everyone's like, whoa, and I'm the only one laughing. It's just like, you know, like I want to laugh together. And I feel like basketball already had that. That's built in to basketball.
Right.
And I feel like other sports have that in pockets. Like there's pockets of that in football. There's pockets of that in hockey. But I just feel like basketball was the sport where I was like, lacrosse is that funny, but like no one's seeing for some reason. Some people just don't see stuff the same way. So for me, I just want to like understand and be understood. And in that, authenticity is like the number one thing for me. So I'm just like, whatever this turns into, that's what it turns into. But I'm not gonna mold it and shape it into anything I want, because all I want is to just see what happens and see what people accept, see what people cling to. But yeah, I'm just willing to ride it out. A lot of times it just feels like I'm watching Diggstape happen just like anybody else is. It almost feels like I'm not the one doing it. It's like I'm just watching with anybody else, but sometimes it comes out of my mouth and I hit post and then I forget about it until people are talking about it. You know, it's just, it's a wild concept.
Well, you talk about being understood. How has it been received? You know, I see people that you are tagging, responding, right, and positively, like they think it's hilarious. And so, you know, do you feel that love?
I really do. And that was one of the most shocking things when I started, because I was like, I'm gonna get like 400 followers. A lot of people are gonna tell me I'm whack, and it's whatever. And it's just, I didn't care. I was like, you know what? Let's just go for it. You know, maybe I'll get 400 followers. Maybe I'll get 1,000. That would be cool to get 1,000. And, you know, maybe someone will say, but it turned into this thing where like, you know, Paul Rabel follows me and I'm on a texting basis with Kyle Harrison, and Josh Burns shouts out rule number 1 on NBC. And it's like, I can't keep up. I can't keep up with like how well it's being received, because I never anticipated. I never accounted for that even being a possibility. So the fact that it's that well received is like, it still blows me away. I still can't fully comprehend it. Like to have high schoolers, like for instance, the dude that made my logo and my podcast co-host, which I need to revitalize. Thanks for reminding me, y'all. We were roommates in college, so that's my homeboy, and he wore a Diggstape shirt to the practice, the high school that he coaches, and the kids he coaches were like, "Oh, you're a Diggstape fan too?" And like, little do they know, like he designed the logo, bro. He's not just a Diggstape fan. Right. That's like half of the brand right there. He's just like, yeah, kinda, and he just brushes it off. You know, right. It's just funny that you know, that's how it goes. So.
It's just something about college roommates and making podcasts. I don't know what it is. Too?
See, yeah. You just find somebody that gets it. You want to talk about stuff.
It's the bond.
I mean, we probably ate less Doritos and more, you know, baked Lays. I think that's what I was munching on back then. Okay. But, you know, we were always munching on something. That's for sure.
For sure. Can you tell everybody who doesn't know what rule number 1 is?
So rule number 1, when it comes to lacrosse, is when you're given a chance to do the goalie dirty, you always do him as dirty as possible. So how that became, it's like that's the status quo now, which is why like I say that less and I do less videos on it, because like now everyone's doing it, and like it makes me happy. But like, how am I supposed to pick one to do a video on when everyone's doing the Lyle Thompson finishes now? Like. Back in 2011, if you came around the crease and hit one of these, shut the field down, bro. Just shut it down. Right, you know, if you were going between the legs or like throwing no look behind the backs, like that's what rule number 1 is. Like you have a chance to go one-on-one with the goalie. Or do y'all remember that video that popped up on Vine? I can't remember the school now. Oh my God. It was like a snowy game and it was a 4-on-3 break. It might've been like Onondaga or Tufts or something like that. But it was like a 4-on-3 break, and it got to the lefty finisher, and he caught it and froze, and the goalie fell down in front of him. Yes. And the dude waited until the goalie was completely on the ground, not just falling, not outside the cage, on the ground, to just throw it in there. That is like, that's what it means. Like, I'm gonna just let you sit there and just like watch me throw this in. Like that's rule number 1 to its core.
Yeah. Jordan, you can identify that with that as an attackman.
I was just gonna say, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think I I was all for rule number 1 before rule number 1 existed.
There you go. See,
that's we're a
Everyone
little
gets it.
older. We're a little older than you, but I can still appreciate it very much.
You're doing folks dirty on the crease, Jordan.
Time to time.
Yeah.
Time to time.
He was. I mean, summer league definitely, right?
Yeah, the more time you have, right?
you
When
go.
you know you're not going to get cleaned out, you're going to take your time and really make it count. I've been meaning to ask this. So I know that the two of you connected in San Diego playing on a club team, like a men's league club team. I would love to hear your scouting report on Francis as a player. And be as honest as you want.
So my scouting report on Francis would be deceptively quick, throws accurate checks, don't get caught slipping.
Ooh.
Because I feel like Francis, from watching you play, I feel like you move with precision until it's time to go fast, and then it's like, how did you caught up to me so fast? And then like my fondest memories of you on the field is just like picking somebody clean on like 1 or 2 checks on like a 5 or 6 second run with somebody. It's just 1, 2, that ball's on the ground. Like precision checks. Love watching you play.
Here's a follow up to that. Something we talk about a lot, Francis and I, is we feel like the takeaway checker is a dying breed. Do you feel the same way?
Yes, I definitely feel like it is.
Could you name
Have you
one
done a
that's
video
out there?
on checks? I haven't seen. I don't know that I've seen one. Is there enough content? Right.
So people ask for it all the time. People are like, when are you going to do a defensive video? And I'm like, man, come on. I got a full-time job, bro. I don't got time to be going home and flipping through 6 hour and a half long games to find 30 seconds worth of checks. Like, I do what's spit out for me already. Like, oh, that's on YouTube already. Let me point my phone at my TV screen. Like, that's how bad my production value is. So like, you already asking too much from me if you want me to make 6 hours of game footage. So like, when it comes up, I do it. I'll send you one that this high school kid had a can opener and sent this dude stick to Pluto. It was one of the funniest checks I've ever seen, because kid was all unassuming. He was hitting him with a little Z dodge. He was trying to set him up with a little like, oh, I'm finna hit you with the ladder work, boy. And the dude was like, nah. Top hand came off the stick, can opener. Dude's stick just went into the atmosphere. It was hilarious. I'm gonna have to send it to you.
Is there a college player right now that you could pinpoint as like a takeaway checker? I just feel like the volume of lacrosse you watch is probably far more than us. So, is there somebody right now that you could pinpoint?
Oh man,
that's hard on the regular. That's hard.
It is, right? I
regularly
find it.
no.
Yeah. Okay.
And if there is one, he's probably at like Salisbury. He's probably
exactly. He's probably at like Lynchburg, just like 6 ground balls a game and nobody's paying attention.
I can tell you right now.
The 2 dudes that come to mind though are Tyler Carpenter and obviously JT Giles Harris. JT is more of a position guy. He's not a takeaway guy, but Tyler Carpenter is in a good position as a number 2 to JT to come in on a double or get the second attackman that's not protecting his stick right, and Tyler Carpenter will walk away with 5 ground balls in a game, and it's like, what? Like 5 ground balls, 3 created turnovers, something crazy. Like, and it's just he does it on the sneaky though. Like, he's not like a highlight checker. But Tyler Carpenter is nice, bro. So I'd probably say those 2.
I bet you there's like, once this comes out, there's going to be like 20 Division I defensemen going to their next practice throwing everything.
I hope so.
They are pissed right now.
There's going to be 20 Division I defensemen getting benched for next game.
Francis, give us a quick scout on Mikey.
Yeah, my first impression of Mikey was speed and shake. A guy, especially when I think of midfielders, I think of guys that want to shake you down up top and really want to run by you and shoot on the run, that downhill midfielder. And I felt like Mikey had that energy to him, especially when you get out into San Diego and you're playing with a bunch of guys. Some of them are from back east, some of them are San Diego club guys. We're all coming from different places, so you're always like looking around the field to see who really knows what they're doing out there. And Mikey was 100% one of those guys. I was like, I can rely on that guy to do his job. But yeah, and if I remember correctly, are you strong right-handed? Is that accurate?
Strong right. Yeah, I'm a righty, but as my career's gone on, I've been around, I think when like my sophomore year of college hit, defenses would just start taking my right hand away. So yeah. I went into sophomore year and I was like, all right, I'm left-handed now. And it's like, I do more stuff lefty than I do righty now. Like I've really worked on that. So strong righty, but if you give me my left, I'm making it rain. So
yeah, absolutely. Definitely on our team, SDLC, which was a great time. And honestly, I kind of fell off the map there. But I saw you posted the other day, you're getting ready for the season.
Yes,
so you're
sir.
Getting some reps and getting some shots up. So I don't know if I'm going to come out of retirement or not, but I might come watch.
For sure. Happy to have you anytime, man. It's always a good time in SDLC.
Yeah. No, this is a great community for lacrosse, and there's a lot of club teams that are around, a lot of guys that are coming from back east that live out here now, and so it was nice to find that community when I first moved out here, for sure.
Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned this earlier. You said that defensemen were getting after you for wanting to put together some checks. Do you get kids sending you film and asking you, if you can do this? Yeah.
All the time.
You're like you're the Lacrosse Sports Center top 10, and people are always submitting entries, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it's functioning. A lot of, like my inbox is usually pretty full with kids like, look what I did, or look what my friend did, or have you seen this from the D3 action this past weekend? Sometimes it's kids, sometimes it's coaches submitting their kids, sometimes it's parents submitting their kids. Sometimes my kids, like a parent will be like, Mike, look at this 2028, and my brain doesn't operate in numbers. I'm just like, how old is he?
20.
Just tell me how old he is, bro. I don't know what he, like, that's too far in advance for me. Like, look at this 2028. Do you ever think he could, hit it behind the back like that? So,
oh my goodness.
Just for anybody out there that's wondering, 2028 are rising sixth graders. I know that because I work at a school.
Got it.
I also work at a school.
Next middle school film that comes out.
I also work at a school, and I had no idea that was how old that group is. Oh my goodness! For all the 2028 parents out there, stop sending Mikey videos.
Yeah,
for goodness sake.
That's not what it's about.
Give the kid a break.
He's not trying to get your kid recruited. Even if you're in high school, he's not trying to get your kid recruited.
Yo, the pressure I get from certain like club coaches would be like, "Hey, this guy needs a look," and I'm like, "That's not my job, bro. Like, why are you?" I got a day job, man. You gonna cut me a check to help kids get recruited? But like,
right?
What? Like, it's that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just gone so far beyond what I ever expected.
So you said you had a couple. Well, you mentioned Powell Lacrosse, and it sounded like there was a story there. So I'd love for you to tell that. But I know that you've done some work with PLL. You've done some things with, I believe, with TLN. At some point. So tell us, some of these other projects that have popped up and what that has been like.
Okay. I'll start with the Powell story because it's the oldest and to me the wildest. So this is back in the days where I was just pushing photography real hard, posting to the photography Instagram all the time, going out shooting. Wasn't doing anything lacrosse related with that account. Just taking landscape photos and posting them. And this is right around the time where Powell Lacrosse like created their own brand, and I had known about them like somehow they popped up, and I got on like their newsletter for like let me know when the shop drops because I'm gonna get a shirt or something. Being a big fan of the Powells, like all of us are. Yep. So anyway, I'm cooling. I'm just posting these pictures, and I get a DM from the Powell Lacrosse Instagram, and I'm like, what could this be about? So open it up and read it. And it's basically a message that's like, hey, just want to let you know, we see what you're doing with your photography and like love the vibes you're putting out. We think you do great work. Keep it up. and it's signed MP. And I'm like, so Mikey Powell just DM'd me off the random, for non-lacrosse related things to tell me he likes my photography. If I got hit by a truck tonight, I would die happy. So I did what anybody else would do. I froze and I sat on the message for 24 hours and I asked all my friends how I should respond to that. Screenshotted it to preserve it, and then I hit him back and I was like, basically, I idolize you, and that compliment everything to me. Pick any photo you want of mine, and I will send you the biggest print I can afford to hang it anywhere you want in your house. And he was like, oh, that's cool. How about we do this? How about I send you any stick you want from my company, and we'll write a blog together on how lacrosse and photography work together. And again, I'm not doing anything in lacrosse other than coaching a high school team, and I'm not posting anything about lacrosse. So to me, I'm like, this is wild. I get to work with this dude. So we put out a blog together. It's still on the internet. I can send you all the link later if you want to go read it.
Please.
It's from 2016, definitely. A while ago. So that ended up putting me in a good position for when Powell put out a job posting for a freelance photographer about a year later. I applied, and the person reviewing the application was like, oh, you're the guy that did the stuff with Mike Powell. Yeah, you're in. So he just hired me, didn't ask, no further questions, hired me. And that was the start of about 2 years of me just every other month getting a big box of Powell stuff to go shoot. I played with their sticks for a while. Like when they dropped gloves, they sent me a bunch of it was great. Like a lax nerd's dream to just get free gear in the mail. And it's like, don't return it. Just shoot it and use it and give it to your friends or whatever. Like that was super dope. So yeah, that's the story on Powell. I had to set that down because Diggstape got too crazy. For a while, I was doing Diggstape and Powell and my day job, which was really hard. So I had to set it down, but still got a great relationship with them. And then what the Diggstape stuff turned into was, PLL happened around the same time I was starting to make videos. So they brought me in. They brought me to All-Star Weekend in 2019. Got to meet a lot of players. Met Paul and Mike. Linked up with Kyle. Did a video with him in the studios. That was wild. But nothing paid at first. And then 2020, they brought me in to do some paid content for the championship series. And that summer, PLL purchased TLN. And they were like, hey, do you want to do a weekly watch? And I was like, yeah, I know that show. I'll do it. So it kind of just snowballed from, quitting Powell at the right time to take on all this other stuff with PLL/TLN, and got a pretty good relationship with them to this day. I got an episode coming up, shameless plug, for whatever happens in the entry draft tomorrow. We're going to make an episode about that. So that'll be the next video to watch.
No, plug away. No, not shameless. Plug it. Plug everything. Hey. Get it out there.
Appreciate
it out there. So, Francis, go ahead.
Oh, I was just, with these things popping off, is there ever the question of, is this going to become my day job? Or do you like to compartmentalize what you're working on a daily basis?
Yeah, there's those questions. Because, aside from PLL and TLN, I fielded a lot of things. I've done work with brands, just like some ad work, like Warrior, sent me one of their burn helmets. Like when they came out, I was like, we'll customize one and you can post about it. Or STX, I did an unboxing for them, and US Club Lacrosse, they had me out to do an event, and they paid me to do that. So it was, for a while, it was interesting to kind of look at the money that was coming in from some of the stuff I was doing. And I was like, will this turn into a day job? Do I want to be a social media personality turn into a day job, or do I want to do something else with this? But it's nice to be in the driver's seat, on this stuff, and just be like, well, whatever's happening, I can spin it however I feel like I need to spin it, if I want to spin it that way. So I feel like if the right opportunities presented themselves, it could be my day job. It could take me out of the writing industry, take me out of the copywriting industry, but it remains to be seen. I'm open to whatever happens, though.
Yeah, Let's also remind everybody the cost of living in San Diego, and you can't just be bouncing around all the time.
Yeah, it don't work like that. It don't work like that here, bro. You can't be doing all that. I need that young 401k and benefits. Stop playing
There
with
you
me.
go.
You
There
gotta
you
pay
go.
my rent and put some money towards retirement. I'm living here, boy. Rent is not cheap around here.
Nope.
That's
No, it's
adult
not.
talk. That is adult talk.
So what I want to ask you is, with the personality that you have created, or your personality that you are sharing with the lacrosse community, right? It's not something you created, it's who you are. Do you feel a responsibility as a Black lacrosse player to be some sort of presence, or to have your presence seen as some sort of way? Do you feel any weight in that regard?
Yes. Short answer is yes. Because you know how we're seen, man. You know how we're seen in the sport. It's thankfully it's mostly favorable from my experience, and that's just on the numbers and the people I've interacted with. Thankfully, it's favorable, but there are challenges. There's stereotypes to work through. There's perceptions that need to be addressed, and there's a cultural bridge that needs to be built between Black players that want to come into the sport, and they see a sport and they're like, that's cool, you use sticks and you throw a ball around and you can do this, it's kind of like this sport and that sport, that's cool. And then certain Black players come in and they see the culture of the sport, and that's what drives them away. That's what makes them put the stick down. That's what makes them be like, I'll play for high school, but like, I think I just want to play football in college, like something like
Right.
that. So I do feel a little bit of a responsibility to make sure that the Black lacrosse experience and the Black lacrosse identity are properly understood and respected. And I guess I didn't know that or feel that until my following started to increase and people were telling me, it's like, hey, this is helping me with this. Hey, this is helping my friends see this. And just the more I learn, it's just like, wow, I do have a bit of an opportunity to speak on behalf of the Black lacrosse community in certain ways. And I do feel pressure to speak on it in ways that I might not feel prepared or comfortable. But that comes with the territory. So, what are you going to do? You're going to shy away, or are you just going to speak on whatever you're educated enough to speak on, which is, what I did last summer. And I'm just happy that was well received as well for the most part. But as long as there's work to do in the lacrosse community, whether I'm Diggstape doing stuff on the internet or just coaching my local club team, I'm going to be there to do it. I love lacrosse. I'm never going to leave the sport. So, yeah, I mean, that's exactly why this sweatshirt is very important to me, because no matter where I am or how I'm doing what I'm doing, this is important to me, So that weight's always there.
And for those who are listening, not watching, what does your sweatshirt say?
It says, believe, inspire, empower.
Love that. And what Jordan and I were talking about earlier was what you're doing, and this is Jordan's phrase, not mine, is it's intelligent and casual. And that's why people gravitate toward. That's why we gravitate towards it. Because yes, you are bringing flavor to the game, but I think we think in every video that you have, you're also showing a high IQ for the game, because you don't just, commentate on it. You're actually talking about what it is and why it is impactful and why it made that person fall or whatever it was. You can tell that there's this baseline knowledge of the game that you are sharing. And that's what I also appreciated about it, that level of intelligence.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. It's that was actually one of the more mind-blowing things when pros started to pick it up, because I was just a D3 guy. I didn't set records at my school. I didn't play D1. Certainly could never play pro. People were like, try for the PLL. It's like, bro, I stink compared to those dudes. Stop playing. So like, just wild that pros are like, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. I'm like, really? Really? So that means a lot. Thank you.
You touched on it just now. We're D3 guys. You're a D3 guy. What is that like in the lacrosse world, being a D3 guy, especially one that's involved with so many D1 guys? Like, what kind of weight, what kind of responsibility goes along with that too?
I would say I haven't encountered very many problems, but I would say that it's the reason I put on for my school so hard, St. Vincent College, is because, well, many reasons. And one of the reasons is I want, the D1 guys, the guys that are like a D1 or bust, guys that grow up playing and, they might be a junior in high school. It's like D1 or bust. It's like, that's cool if that's your goal. But like, if you like my content, it's like, I play Division 3 and I wouldn't change it for the world. I want people to understand that it's a great experience. It's not for everybody, just like D1 is not for everybody. But I want to help people understand when I say St. Vincent College, it's not just me and my clique and my boys. It's all the D3 coalition. Like, we know what we're talking about too, bro. Like, we're not stupid just because we're not as naturally gifted as you, just because I don't have, Peterborough type hands. Like, don't come at me because I don't got Peterborough. I got Damascus, Maryland hands. Relax. I did what I had to do with them. I got a scholarship. Okay. So let's leave it at that, like that sort of thing.
You just made me really proud of my Dallas, Texas hands, so I appreciate that.
That's a podcast in and of itself. Different areas of the world got different hands. Like if you from where Joe Walters was from up in Rochester, you got different hands than somebody that grew up in Baltimore and went to Gilbert. Yeah. Like it's just different, man.
Mikey, man, it's a pleasure to have you on. It's been fun chatting this far. So we're going to get you into something else, a little bit different, a little bit of fun again, another rendition of stick picks. I'm going to reach in. We're going to get a topic at random, and we're going to just freestyle on it for a little bit. Everybody gets a little bit of time to chat. And I just think it's a fun way to bring up some cool topics, especially with a good guest like yourself. So without further ado, just real quick, we got here. So the role of social media in lacrosse and how it's grown. This is very individual, obviously, but just if you could speak on it, guys, for maybe the past 5 to 10 years. Don't go too deep into Lax Twitter. It's a scary place at times, but yeah, love to hear you guys' thoughts about how it's changed and how it's really changed for the game.
I'm gonna let Mikey lead on this one.
Okay, go ahead and go first. How it's got good and bad, right? There's the positive where kids are more visible now. Someone that might not have gone to the biggest school, or the most well-known school is going to get looks. He goes viral one time, and all of a sudden Scott Marr wants to drive across state down to Binghamton and check him out. So you never know. You never know what could happen with something like that, with kids going viral and schools getting attention that they might not have gotten. But the downside of that is, it's not exempt from social media culture, the one-up culture, the keeping up with the Joneses culture, the I'm not as cool, I'm not as well recognized, I don't have viral clips, I don't have followers, it starts to weigh on kids' mental health, and it starts to weigh on kids' self-worth and self-value. And that's something that we need to get out of social media as a whole. And lacrosse is one of those spaces where kids want to play at high levels, and kids want to prove that they're good enough to do it. They're good enough to get out there and make a name for themselves, and head to Vermont and be the leading scorer there. All he wants an opportunity. So if we cut down on that, there's the positives to look at. But over the last 10 years, I'd say it's integral to the sport's growth.
Something I've thought about a lot with social media is its presence with college teams, and how it really is a big feeder for recruiting. If Duke's Instagram is really popular and entertaining and maybe tells some human story. And I started following Duke's Lacrosse Instagram after we talked to Michael Sowers, and now I want to follow it. And then I realize, wow, it's really good. It's really entertaining. It has cool videos, and the music in the videos is great. And now I want to watch it all the time. If I'm a high school kid, I'm thinking, man, like, I might want to go there, if it's between Duke and somewhere else, or boil it down to a D3 team where it's not about scholarship. It's about just a feel. So if I'm really into social media and I'm doom scrolling on Instagram, and I
never heard that before.
Such a good term.
And I catch, Salisbury's feed catches my eye, or St. Vincent's feed catches my eye, I'm going to give it a look. I'm just going to give it a look because it's something I can relate to through social media.
Yeah, I think outside of lacrosse world, I got hooked on Clemson's Instagram like 3 years ago. Huge Clemson fan for no reason other than I enjoy their social media. So if that's present for lacrosse teams, I think that's a huge benefit. One thing I noticed with the introduction of the PLL was it was a like Instagram based introduction to the lacrosse community, and they were grinding on their Instagram, and that built so much hype for the PL. I was so hyped. I was following the main account. I was following the teams. Like, I wanted to know all the things. Again, we're all lax rats here, so we can identify with that. But I think that they leverage social media so well to build that energy for that league, something that Major League Lacrosse just wasn't doing. They weren't doing social media very well at all. So it seemed cohesive. It seemed like there was purpose to it. Maybe people think it's a little over the top, but sometimes you got to be douchey to get people to notice what you're doing.
I want to ask, I want to ask Mikey this because we've talked about this, Francis. Do you feel like the PLL gave too much access? Like, was it too much access?
Too much access to the fans?
Yeah, in terms of like their social media and really, I guess their broadcast too. You heard everything, and maybe it was like, maybe it was more than it really felt. If there were fans there, but especially this summer, you heard every nook and cranny of the sideline. Was it too much access? Like, I saw a little bit of backlash on social media, like, oh, this is what they're doing? Like, this is what we're talking about?
I don't know. I'm the kind of person where I'm like, I want to hear all that stuff. I want to hear Matt Gaudette chirp Blaze Riordan and say he's trash. Because it's like, you can get butthurt about Matt Gaudette saying that the best goalie in the world on the numbers and on the accolades is trash. But like, everyone knows Blaze Riordan's not trash. So it's like, why is everyone up in arms about this? It would be like if Chauncey Billups was like, yeah, Michael Jordan is trash. They're gonna be like, ha, bro, you crazy. Like, they just go laugh it off. Who cares? Like, people are just getting up in arms about this. And, I know it's all about like the profanity and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm just grown man with no kids. I'm not tripping on that. So for me, it's not a big deal, but I get it if parents are like, dude, my 10-year-old's watching this. I don't want them to hear that. Like, I get that. So I'm not going to push on that, but I feel like PLL is as successful as they are because they are granting a lot of access. It's because you don't get that with other leagues. That's just my take.
Mm-hmm. No, totally. And that makes sense too. And I think at its core, social media, right? It's meant to inform, it's meant to inspire, and it's meant to tell a story, right? So I think, again, it's a fine line, but it can be super useful. And I think it's been great for the sport of lacrosse as a whole. All right. One more, Mikey. We're going to get into it right here.
Shawnee, you're not going to defend Chauncey Billups? You have 10 seconds to defend Chauncey Billups right now.
It's Mr. Big Shot. He's one of the best to ever do it. Brought a ring to Detroit that hasn't been there in I don't know how long. I don't know when it's going to be back either. Andre Drummond's not going to get you there. He got shipped to Cleveland for a box of rocks. Garbage.
All right, time's up.
I hope Detroit can turn it around. I mean, listen, I'm a Knicks fan. I don't have much to say, but Emmanuel Quickly looks like the second coming of John Stark. So we'll see.
God,
listen,
cut this kid off.
I digress.
Cut him
I digress.
off.
That was great.
I have a fun one here. I think it's going to be a good one, this one that I pulled. Jordan, you can have your say in here too, but I really want to hear from Mikey and Francis. Again, a couple West Coast guys. What are the best things about the West Coast? People who haven't been, what do you wish that they understood about the West Coast. And Mikey, I mean, you're a perfect person to ask from, having bi-coastal experience or whatever you want to call it. If you guys could just speak on that a little bit, best things about the West Coast or things you wish people knew about the West Coast.
Who wants to go first?
I'll give you one thing. You can be outside all year long.
You had to go there?
That was honestly,
and what that means,
fast.
let me relate it to the topic, right? What it means is that our athletes can be outside training all the time. And I think that has been a huge, for the kids that come out of California, that come out of Texas, that come, maybe not so much Denver, you get a lot of snow, but for the kids that are coming out of the West Coast and their ability to be able to, train, hone their skills, play all year round, whether you think that that's a good thing or not, it does give them that great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But Sean, you nailed it.
Could be anything, Mikey. Anything. Yeah. What's the best part about the West Coast? What's something you're like, wow, so happy I have it here all the time?
I'm like proudly bi-coastal at this point. I mean, I'm very proud of where I'm from, but I love living in San Diego. And people are like, would you ever move back? Would you ever consider? I'd be like, I think about that snow. I think about, I think about the Beltway. I'm like, man, probably not. I think the West Coast, there's negatives, right? You pay a lot of taxes and high rent to live in California. And a lot of the trash talk that you hear about California, they're like, well, it's overcrowded and there's this and there's that and there's pollution. They talk about Los Angeles and they talk about San Francisco. Y'all are not talking about San Diego. I wish somebody would say something bad about San Diego other than it's expensive to live here. This is a great city. I mean, to me, the best food I've ever had, other than pockets of places I've been, San Diego is so consistent with how good the food is, man. Like if you're a foodie, this is a great city. There's In-N-Out here on the West Coast. I was an In-N-Out employee for 6 years. I will die on the hill that In-N-Out is the best burger, period. I'll die on that hill proudly. And I think to Francis' point, you can go outside. You can all the time. You can go outside in January. And it's nice out. You can just go for a run. I see people surfing in January. They're crazy, but you can surf in January, or you can, snowboard on a Saturday in Big Bear and then drive down to PB the same day and surf. Where else can you do that? How many other places in the world can you comfortably do that? The variance of activities, the amount of different people that are here. Great place. Great place to live, great place to grow up, great place to compete against other athletes. There's high quality athletes here. I mean, what else do you know? Best Mexican food in America. Let's put it like that. You have to go to Mexico to find better Mexican food.
Which you can do. You can do.
Another perk, which you can do. It's quicker for me to get to Rosarito than it is to LA.
Absolutely.
So I have a question then. I was told by my college roommate that the best Mexican food in the United States was in Texas. And now I'm getting mixed reviews. So I'm going to need to ask that person to reframe, please.
I stand by that statement that the best Mexican food is in Texas. I do. I was only trying to be agreeable for our guest, and now you forced me to call out our guest.
You got 2 minutes.
All right. Here's the 2 things that you need to be involved in Mexican food for it to be at its best: ground beef and queso dip. If you go to any Mexican restaurants, except for the 2 that I've scouted out here in San Diego, you can't get either of those things. And that's why I take issue with San Diego Mexican food. Now, tacos, great. Burritos, great. But I need some dip and I need some ground beef enchiladas. I need it. I'm sorry.
Queso. Interesting. That's just two different. So obviously
it's-
Mexican food is not a monolith. Like obviously
Right.
food is going to be a little different by the Texas border than it's the California border. So
Absolutely.
hyperbole to say that it's the best Mexican food you can find in America in San Diego, but what I stand by as well. So okay, so what do you eat with ground beef? Because here we don't do the ground beef. It's like it's shredded beef.
Ground beef tacos, ground beef enchiladas. You put it in the queso. You put the ground beef in the queso. You mix it up. The best bite. That's the best bite.
I've seen him do it.
You can do the same thing with brisket. That's a Texas thing. Brisket, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, truthfully, I've never been to San Diego. I had plans to go before everything got shut down, and I have been to Dallas a few times. And I only have 15 seconds to say this, and I'm going to say it. The best barbecue that I've had was in Texas, and I would also say the best Mexican that I had was in Texas.
Wow.
But when I come out to San Diego, Mikey, we'll all go out for some Mexican.
Jordan, hit me up, man. I will take you to every good taco shop I know, and I will absolutely give the crown of best barbecue I've ever had to Texas. I went to Dallas one time for 23 hours. To the hour, 23 hours to watch the Washington football team play the Cowboys from Dallas. And I got some barbecue with my cousins. I'll never forget it. Best barbecue I've ever had.
Yep.
There you have it.
I'll tell you what, I visited Francis out in San Diego. Incredible tacos, the best Mexican food I've ever had. I mean, I haven't had Texas, but again, I guess it's kind of similar to when people are like, oh, the best ribs are here. The best way you can cook ribs are over here. Like Missouri, Texas, wherever else. Listen, it's a good debate. I'm glad we got there too. That's kind of where I was going with that. So
That's how you know it's real. We're
excellent.
not all agreeing.
Here we go. Again, another rendition of Snake in the Draft. So we kind of gave Mikey a brief overview, right? So we're going to have everybody pick this week teams they think could do the most damage in the NCAA tournament come May. Again, we're in the midst of bracket season. Syracuse is in the Sweet 16. We've talked about tacos. We've talked about barbecue. We've touched upon everything thus far. We're going to bring it back to lacrosse real quick. So I gave everybody the Inside Lacrosse top 20. Shout out Josh Davey and Inside Lacrosse. And really, fellas, what I'm looking for is you draft your ideal 3 teams, right? Who's somebody who can make a deep run in the tournament? Who's somebody people aren't talking about that you think could make a run? And we're going to have fun with it, right? So, Mikey, you are our guest. You go first, sir. From that list, who do you think would be your first team to select?
You know, I'm going to start with Richmond.
Wow.
They're there at number 20. They're at 500. But to me, if High Point keeps playing like they're playing, Richmond's going to win the SoCon, and that's an automatic bid. So if Richmond get in the tournament, that's not a team that you just don't game plan for. Like you just, unless you're Syracuse and you can roll out that offense against them. Okay, well you're Syracuse or you're UNC. But if let Richmond get in and play against a 5 seed, play against a 6 seed. That's a bracket buster. If Richmond's not going up against a top 4 seed, they had enough experience. They have enough they have the coaching for it. I mean, just looking at their record, their 3 losses are to Duke, North Carolina, 1 and 2, depending on who you are, and Loyola, who is a good team. They've faltered at times, but they've shown their stripes. And then they lost Loyola by 1. They beat Bellarmine VMI as easy wins. Towson's 1 goal. But, I mean, I don't know, man. If High Point don't show up, Richmond's going to win the conference. And if Richmond gets a 5 or 6 seed, they could bust your bracket.
Mikey, I love how you went there, too. You took that mindset, too, of a bracket buster in a sense. And, again, friend of the program, Brett Randall and Rob Randall. Rob was their coach at Nazareth. And Brett, one of the players on Richmond. So, again, great pick. Jordan, we're going to go to you at 2, and then Francis at 3 and 4 back to back.
So, I'm gonna have to go with my homer pick. I got to do it. I'm gonna take the Black Knights Army. Why? because I think it is one of the most beautiful schools in the country. I think they have elite people. They have elite coaching with Coach A and Kyle Georgalis, who I played against in high school. They are just really, really put together as a program, as a team. They're, again, to use Mikey's words, you don't want to see them on your side of the bracket. They're not the team that you want to play. And they're 3-1. They had a great win over Syracuse early. And I just feel like they're the type of team that continually gets better as the season goes on. And in a very whirlwind of a season and a funky season, there is most definitely a bubble around the United States Military Academy that is impenetrable. And I'm a huge fan of what they do at Army on and off the field. So I'm going with the Army Black Knights.
All right.
And anyone who goes against that, go try and get in. Just go try and walk on their campus. See what happens.
Not easy.
Arrested.
That's true. Francis, up to you again. You can keep this trend going, bubble bracket busters, whatever you want to call it, or kind of switch it up. Up to you, sir. You have back-to-back picks.
I'm going to switch it up here first. I'm going to take Duke. Here's the story. What is typically the story with Duke? They lose one game. They lose two games. They lose three games at the beginning of the season. And as they always say on the broadcast, John Danowski is not concerned with winning games at the beginning of the season. He's concerned with how his guys show up at the end of the season. Well, guess what? Duke's 8-0 right now. And the only thing scarier to me than a Duke team that loses three games at the beginning of the season is a Duke team that wins all their games at the beginning of the season. I think that this Duke team is probably as high-powered and as balanced as we have seen in quite a while. We talked about some defensemen. We had Michael Sowers on. Mike's popping up on Diggstape early in the season. If he's in Diggstape form early in the season, then only imagine what he's going to be like in May. I think with a team that's got some, as most teams do, they've got some transfers coming in. Guys are still trying to figure out where they fit in. Duke's got phenomenal freshmen. They've got phenomenal 5-year seniors. These guys that are just so high powered that are still learning how to work with each other. I can't do anything but take Duke right now as a team that's on my list.
Duke feels like they got 4 midfield lines, bro. I feel like they got 12 midfield.
Unreal.
It's like every time it's like,
I'm like,
oh,
who is that?
May's first hat trick of his career. It's like, you're a super senior?
Right.
You're on the third midfield. Like,
Exactly.
Unreal.
It's like, where have you been and who's been playing in front of you?
That midfield is deep.
Yeah. And, Nakai is, I never coached him. He's not necessarily my guy, but a lot of pride for a guy that comes out of Dallas, Texas and is doing his thing at Duke and has been.
Heck yeah. You're up again, Francis. One more, and then to Jordan, and then Mikey for a back-to-back.
Yeah, I'm not going to be the guy that leaves Cuse on the table. I'm picking up Syracuse. Here's my thing with Syracuse. We all know about their midfield, and their attack is coming into their own. Steven Rafis, Owen Hiltz. Who's our third attackman that I'm forgetting? Number 22.
Chase Scanlon's a beast.
Chase Scanlon is our guy who's coming into his own. I think Kark said it best. He's got to finish early in the game or else it's all going downhill from there. I'm confident he's going to find his way. He was their leading scorer last year going into the COVID break, we'll call it. They've been getting some good face-off action here, but that's going to be the thing, right? The Cuse is like an NBA team. They're either going to have to outscore teams or they're going to lose because their defense is not going to hold up against the ACC in the long run. I think they caught UVA off guard I thought they looked great, but I think defensively they've got a lot of work to do. They moved Brett Kennedy up to the midfield as a long stick midi, so hopefully they're solidifying that group down low. Drake Porter's great, but he can't do it all for himself. So if their defense can hold up in the long run, I think they'll be all right. But right now they've got to outscore some teams.
Well said.
I meant it every bit.
So
A succinct analysis on Syracuse.
Yeah.
They got to score. I like that.
so,
You got to score more than the other team to win.
it's funny that you say that. That's literally been my coaching philosophy for 10 years.
It's a simple game, Jordan.
Score more. Score more. So me and Mikey go bracket busters, and here comes big guy, and he goes straight blue bloods, right? It's like taking well, maybe not this year, but that's like taking Duke and Kentucky, like in basketball. Not this year, but typically. So I respect that. He stuck to his guns. So I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna take North Carolina. I think North Carolina's offense, you could put them up against any offense in the country, hence why they're the number one team in the country. Here's my favorite thing about North Carolina. They are a staple 10-man ride team. That is their ride. It's not like we do it sometimes because we think it's fun and it's cute. They 10-man ride as their ride. That I get like that pulls on my heartstrings as a coach, as a former attackman. Like the 10-man ride, bring it back, and they've done it. That's the other thing. Like, I don't know. I'm sure most people realize that it's not just like, oh, this year we're really good, so we're going to 10 it. They do it. So I love that they stick to their guns. Again, offensively, between Chris Gray and some really big, talented downhill dodgers that they have, it's just tough to stop. And boy, did they play with an edge on defense. Holy cow, do they play with an edge. And their goalie's dynamite. I mean, the young goalie, he's been playing just fantastic. So I'm gonna go with UNC, which is like the pick of this draft. They're number one, so I'm gonna pick them.
Question for you, philosophically, can you 10-man ride all year?
If you're North Carolina, yes.
Okay.
If you are
Stevens Tech.
If you are Stevens Tech, I'm not gonna say. If
Shout out Coach Peluso.
Yeah, shout out Coach Peluso for sure. But I'm gonna say UNC can definitely 10-man ride all year and probably into the summer if they want to.
What if you're in a men's league and there's 5 games total? I don't know if I can hold up for that.
I don't know. It might be a different discussion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mikey's got 2 picks.
Okay. Well, looking at this top 20, man, it's kind of an in-between as far as like favorites to go farthest and bracket buster. It's kind of an in-between. I think Rutgers falls in the in-between here because Rutgers had a chance to have the entire lacrosse community talk about nothing but Rutgers. They almost had it. Let it slip through their fingers. Maryland bounced on them real proper. It is what it is. Maryland's a wagon, but that's not what we're talking about right now because I'm a Hopkins fan. I ain't putting no respect on their name like that. We're gonna talk about Rutgers. Rutgers is a very good team. They just got a nice influx of talent because of the Rona year, and they're playing in a conference that is uncharacteristically weak. Because I mean, like Penn State is at the bottom of the conference now. Like Hopkins is 3rd in the conference now. Like that don't make sense. Like, Ohio State shouldn't be 2 and 3. Why is Ohio State 2 and 3? Maryland's a wagon, but they're always a wagon. So if we're talking teams from big conferences that if they catch a team slipping in May, it doesn't matter if it's Syracuse or someone else, you can't count them out. I'm going Rutgers because they're not slept on this year. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I am trying to say is you know, Big Ten's not one of those conferences where you're either the AQ or you're a nobody. You know, like it's going to be a 2-team conference at least, and if Ohio State picks it up, maybe 3. But yeah, Rutgers has a chance to do some damage in the tournament, no matter where they land, and I got a lot of confidence in them.
All right, respect.
That's my number 1. And then for my snake pick, you know, I think Denver is a little bit of a sleeping giant, so I'm gonna move over to Denver. They're 6-2, and they just got TD. Do I need to say more? They finna start 6%, 80%, 5%. They're gonna start swiping cats. They're gonna start killing it for that wild percentage. The other teams attack when we stand there like this. Like, am I ever gonna see the ball? Because TD just make it take it.
Get out of the beach chair, hang out.
Exactly. Just kick out the beach chair, man. Whoever's playing against them. And what was I going to say? Jackson Morrill is, I think, still top 3 in scoring this year, top 3 or top 5. And Ethan Walker, who is, as famous Los would say, is a walking split act. That dude can hit it from anywhere, any release, anytime, as long as it's in his left hand. He's gonna spray that. So give it to Ethan Walker. He's gonna get you some points. Their conference isn't super strong. Their strength of schedule isn't super strong. They're 6-2, but I wouldn't be surprised if they finished the season with just those 2 losses, and they ended up being like a 4 seed in the tournament and like getting to the Final Four. Wouldn't surprise me, especially with TD.
And in support of that pick for you, Mikey, their only 2 losses come from early February losses to Duke and North Carolina, which basically means nothing, right?
Right.
As lacrosse people, if you're losing a game in early February, that's just, you know, you can't even really write that up as a loss.
Especially those 2 back to back.
Right.
Seriously, like Jordan, up to you, sir. And then Francis, I believe you have the last pick.
With that same logic of only losing to top 5 teams, top 3 teams early, I'm going to go with UVA. Sitting at number, what were they? 9? Yeah, so they're at number 9 with a 6-2 record. They lost to Syracuse and Carolina. Last time I checked, though, they are still the defending champions. Is that correct?
Accurate.
That is correct.
Okay, that is correct. Okay, so that's going to round out my group for sure. Again, here's what I really, really like about them. They play fast. They have a system that's based on creating and playing through chaos, which I appreciate. Because this game, the game that we love, it's free flowing, it's fast, it's energetic, and I think for all intents and purposes, UVA embodies that. Does it always result in a national championship? I guess we'll see. We'll see this year. If that's 2 in a row for them, then yeah, it does. But other than that, they have the young Canadian kid who's really good.
Cormier?
Lefty.
Cormier,
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll tell you his number. I don't always get names. I'm really good with numbers, though.
There's a wagon, bro.
Yeah, he's no joke. And they have the redshirt freshman, number 1, who's really great. He's been great. And not to mention, they bring back like basically everybody but that 2-way midfielder they had, number 22 in
Conrad.
2019. Yeah. Right. Yeah, so see how I'm not literally saying anyone's name and you know exactly who I'm talking about?
That's the number. The number makes it easy.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's such a it's a brutal habit of scouting reports. Like I'm just so on top of numbers and not names. But yeah, UVA, I love their energy. I love their style. Fast paced with a purpose. I'm going to stick with UVA. Really good off the ground too. Great ground ball team.
They're scrappy. And that boy Connor Schellenberger is Marcus Holman 2.0. You heard it here first.
I'm looking up and down this list, and I'm looking for somebody else as a sleeper pick, but I just don't think it's going to be that deep of a season this year. I really don't. And so with that said, Maryland is the last top 3 team that we haven't talked about yet. Maryland's 5-0. They're in that Big Ten, right? We already talked about the Big Ten, and Mikey, you call them a wagon, and they are definitely that. They will be in Final Four weekends. They will be there. They've shown us that they can be there. I'm just not sure what they have once they get there. And so, yeah.
Interesting.
I said it.
Wow.
Whoa.
I said it. So I am going to put some faith in Maryland, though, this year. I'm going to put some faith in there. When you're talking about Bernhardt, you're talking about Wisnauskas, you're talking about Maltz, our boy Anthony DeMeo from San Diego. Shout out Coronado.
Sir. Big fan of Anthony DeMeo. He's nice.
When you talk about those guys have been around for a while now. They've got some experience to them. They are very well coached. They are always very well coached. If those guys can play with an edge throughout this entire season and maintain that high level, then I think that they're going to be capable of doing some great things. I think that one of the toughest parts about Maryland's schedule right now, as I look at it, is that they are not playing UVA. They're not playing Syracuse. They're not playing UNC. They're not getting those teams on the schedule this year before they get that opportunity in the playoffs. They're playing a primarily Big Ten schedule. So that's going to be their disadvantage, is they haven't been as battle tested as these ACC teams are.
Sure.
But I'm going to give them a look. I'll give them a look.
So
Show.
I got to say this. I respect Maryland a lot. I again, the way that they play consistently through the years, and Coach Tillman's been there now for a while, so it really says a lot about him as a coach. I'm hoping that I can find this picture and that I can put it on the video of the YouTube version of this podcast. There is a picture of Francis and I at I want to say 14, 13. It was somewhere in that Final Four, passed out in the stands watching Maryland, sleeping. So I can't get that out of my head that it was like invert city before the shot clock with Maryland. Not to say that it didn't work. It got them to the Final Four. It won them a championship in that range of time. But, man, I just can't get over how sleepy it was. And I'm not saying they play like that now, because they can't. And I'm not saying I don't like the way they play or that they don't have great players, because they have great players and they have a great system. But I go back to that picture of us falling asleep in the stands during a lacrosse game. And I can't get it out of my
Jordan,
head.
I'm scarred by that too, to be honest. I'm scarred by that era of Terps lacrosse, bro. Snooze fest, bro. Total snooze fest watching that team. And
I get it. I do. I get it. I don't hold it against them. I get it. This is this man's paycheck. I get it. And it works. I'm on board with winning. But I'm also I don't love sleeping and watching the thing I love the most, Well,
there may have been another reason or two while we were passed out.
Nope, there was no other reason.
I was going to say, was that too much sun, too many beers, too little sunscreen, or what was the deal there? But that makes total sense when you think back to that time. But again,
and the team we skipped over, speaking of that era, was Notre Dame. None of us. I think the rest of us are really scarred by what we witnessed out of Notre Dame in that era.
No, I'll never forgive them for not allowing Lyle Thompson to play in the Final Four. I will never forgive them.
I'm with Jordan on this. I'll never. Unforgivable.
I'll tell you what, though, I was at that Notre Dame. I think I've mentioned this before. That Notre Dame Albany game at Hofstra in Long Island, probably one of the best lacrosse games I've ever seen. Like, I don't think there's footage of that game anywhere. It was incredible. It was so uncharacteristic of Notre Dame too at the time. Like we're talking about a snooze fest most of the time, but just an incredible game. And I was walking out of there heartbroken that we couldn't see the Thompson fellas, play a Final Four weekend. Unreal.
Yeah.
That
one hurt.
Stuff. That one hurt. It hurt.
Before we get out of this, I know I keep interrupting you, Sean. Can I get Mikey? Can we get your prediction? Duke Syracuse. I believe it's tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
What are you feeling? What are we looking for here? Wow.
We're looking for Duke, and we're looking for Duke by somewhere between 4 and 5 goals.
Wow.
Okay.
That's how strongly I'm on the Duke wagon this year.
In North Carolina too, right? So that's going to be a big factor as well.
And they're not playing in the Dome. I would say then I would add to that margin, but that's disrespectful at that point to say 6. 6 is disrespectful. 4 or 5 that's a lot. 6 is disrespectful. So I'll say 4 or 5. Duke's gonna win. And the reason for that is because, like we were talking about, man, something about Syracuse's defense. It don't seem something about that. It doesn't seem suspect, but I don't know, man. It's not built on the type of foundation that Duke's defense is built on. And offense to offense, they score the same amount of goals. Who's going to stop more? I think Duke's got a better defense in front of their goalie, even though Drake Porter's nice. But if Drake Porter's your best defensive player, then I'm over.
Sean, I'm going to give you 10.
Brendan O'Neill and Michael Sowers are a problem for Syracuse's defense. Are a problem in a matchup situation. They are a problem. And as much as I love Syracuse, that's going to be an issue.
Sean, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to hold up your alma mater. Go.
I mean, listen, I could see him dropping one early. Again, like we talked about, that defense, they're still figuring it out. They're still coming along. I will not pick against them, right? Because there's a chance they could dominate the X and get out to an early lead and then just nurse that for most of the game. Again, being in North Carolina, listen, I'm focused on that game, but also Buddy Boeheim and the boys are playing on Saturday night against Houston. So, when this comes out, I'm probably going to be
diverging tactics.
Exactly.
So avoided. So avoided.
I'm bringing it around another side. But listen, fellas, this was awesome. This was fun. Again, Mikey, listen, we appreciate you coming on, man. We appreciate you. We appreciate the message you put out there. The fun you bring to lacrosse, and it's been awesome to see what you put out there. We're huge fans. And again, man, we appreciate you coming on. If you have anything else to plug, or, if you want to share your channel for any of the adults listening out there who may not know who you are, please.
We do have some adults. We do have some
adults.
That's cool. Well, this is good then. If we have adults on here, I would say a lot of people know me from my work on Instagram, the videos, but lately I've just been on Twitter because I only make videos as I feel led to make a video, but I tweet every day. So follow me on Twitter at Diggstape on Twitter because I spend a lot of time on there. But other than that, nothing else to really plug. I just really appreciate y'all having me on, the kind words you've had to share about me. It's great. I love hanging out with Lax Rats, so anytime y'all want to chop it up.
I was going to say, we got to get you back on when the tournament comes on, see if these picks hold up.
Right? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Y'all got my number now. Hit me up.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
All right, Mikey. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, bro.